I can tell you what my goal and my hope is that, the, business end of it and the business people, I wish that they would get involved with their attorney from the inception of a deal forward. But a lot of people don't do that because, they're eager to get into deals. They want to do, whatever. They think that legal is just a holdup or an unnecessary expense, or whatever. And then they come when, instead of being proactive to avoid issues, they come when it's time to be reactive to solve problems. And I would say it goes anywhere from in between, from, I get plenty of people who show up before a deal goes down, or I get people who show up like when the apocalypse hit and it's time to, figure out which way is up and, get them out of the situation. So, I would love to see people at the beginning, but I understand a lot of people, for whatever reason.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. Today's guest, Matthew Fornaro, has been a business law attorney serving South Florida since 2003. He's also licensed in the District of Columbia. Prior to starting his firm, he worked at 2 prestigious AmLaw 200 law firms focusing on civil litigation. He practices complex commercial litigation, including contract disputes, and also practices construction law, intellectual property law, homeowner and condominium association representation, and assists business owners in choosing and drafting all legally required documents. He's also involved in mentoring new attorneys, both a graduate and instructor of the Kauffman Foundation's Fast Track New Venture program, and he's also a graduate instructor at the Jim Moran Institute for Global Entrepreneurship Small Business Executive Program at Florida State University. You can find him online at fornarolegal.com. Matthew, great to have you on here today.
Thank you, Dylan. I'm glad to be here.
Now, when we talk specifically about, the intersection of law and real estate, I think a lot of people right now are seeing, even maybe at a level where they might not have previously seen it. And I'm speaking also from my perspective as a realtor in Texas. It feels like every area of real estate is becoming more regulated. There's more eyes on it. I come from the background of wholesale off-market deals, and I know in so many areas there's a lot of pressure there for regulation and then also for people to be licensed if you're going to be doing that type of thing. So it does seem like wherever you are in real estate, you're definitely going to either have to know, the laws in your area for sure, or be working with an attorney who's going to be able to assist you at some point in time in your investment career.
Yeah, it's true, Dylan. Things are definitely, no matter what, regime is in power at the state or federal level, things are definitely probably more regulated and getting more regulated now, or more formalized, I should say, than they were previously, because there's a lot of lax practices in real estate and a lot of lax practices in deals, and a lot of, not dotting I's and crossing T's, and a lack of due diligence that's now, kind of being reactively responded to by increased scrutiny, increased laws, increased regulation, because things were, generally, they're not terribly lax, but they were much more lax than they are now. And they're much more formalized and much more regimented, particularly because of the influx of technology and things like that, where everything is, you can see all your documents and everything online. You can look up all your public records and everything. So things are just much more formal now and much more, I would say, precise than they were previously. And they're just getting more so as time goes on.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Yeah, and when we talk specifically about how this is impacting people, I mean, you have to, as an investor, be prepared to shift. This is what I've seen. Whether it's meaning, hey, you're going to have to, have a budget set aside for fees, or that can mean entirely, hey, we have to have a plan B in case our strategy is no longer viable. Like in the case of short-term rentals, for instance, if your whole play was to be a, under 30-day stay investor in Dallas, where I'm licensed, that's, no longer a viable strategy. You have to do, midterm or, year to year leases. And so, when you're talking with investors and they're looking at, a 5-year hold, let's say on a commercial multifamily property, for instance, how often are those conversations about, potentially strategy as well, other than just strictly, legal documentation?
It's always, no matter what area of practice it is in real estate or whatever, there's always, business advice and strategy that goes into the legal portion and drafting the legal documents and figuring out, all your contingencies and various weird things that can happen in business, whether it's, real estate or another area, but particularly in real estate, because things can get really can change in a hurry and get really complicated really quick, particularly what you're talking about with, variable term rates on
That's right.
trying to do rentals on multifamily units. Like I can tell you a story I'm working on right now. I'm representing a investment group out of Canada who rented out a like an entire high-end apartment complex in this place where I am in South Florida over by Palm Beach called Singer Island. It's a very nice area. And so now the dude who they rented it to was rented it in his individual name, but it was supposed to be on behalf of like a soon to be formed LLC. But the guy apparently never formed the LLC. So it's all in his individual name. And it's probably about 15 units. And he was gonna divvy them up into like Airbnb or Verbos or whatever. And then he just kind of stiffed my clients and rented them out and kept the money. So now we're involved in this crazy commercial litigation dispute because technically they're commercial, but even though they're residential, and then there's an eviction portion and all this crazy stuff. So yeah, I mean, obviously nobody planned on that happening, but now I have to deal with it on the legal end.
Yeah.
So, I mean, things like that just happen in real estate deals. I mean, no one wants a real estate deal to fall apart or whatever, but when you have so many moving pieces, like you're talking about in your example, it can happen and you kind of want to proactively figure out how you're going to be able to solve it when it does happen. And in my case, my guys, came to me after this was all done and we didn't get a chance to set it up properly. And so now I'm kind of left to pick up the pieces, which is what I'm doing.
When people talk about, what can go wrong, the thing that I hear as a, real estate operator is, well, worst thing that could happen is you get sued. Now, I wouldn't say that's also the worst possible situation. If you're a real estate syndicator and you're, potentially defrauding people, that probably is worse. But, when you're dealing with, as you mentioned, moving pieces and you're dealing with lenders and you're trying to acquire properties and you're underwriting deals and you're dealing with lenders and you're dealing with title, right? what I've seen in specifically the syndication space and working and speaking with multifamily investors is that there seemed to be like a perfect storm of negative things that happened. You had variable rate debt that doubled. You had cost of materials that tripled in some cases. For a 2x4. And then also you had an influx of new construction in some markets, like in Texas, where I'm licensed, in Austin, that's a great example of where you had so much, multifamily development that rents could stabilize or go down, right? And so when all of these factors are taking place, at what point in time are people reaching out to their attorney? Is it when their back is up against the wall and they're missing payments, or is it when they're being foreclosed on, or is there typically a more proactive approach from syndicators and fund managers working with a legal professional when they see, hey, we might not be able to hit our pro forma?
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
I can tell you what my goal and my hope is, that, the, business end of it and the business people, I wish that they would get involved with their attorney from the inception of a deal forward. But a lot of people don't do that because, they're eager to get into deals. They want to do, whatever. They think that legal is just a holdup or an unnecessary expense, or whatever. And then they come when, instead of being proactive to avoid issues, they come when it's time to be reactive to solve problems. And I would say it goes anywhere from in between, from, I get plenty of people to show up before a deal goes down, or I get people to show up like when the apocalypse hit and it's time to, figure out which way is up and, get them out of the situation. So, I would love to see people at the beginning, but I understand a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't do it. And, just as long as you get an attorney at some point when you're in an adverse situation like that, it's better late than never. But the earlier you get an attorney involved, the better your result is going to be, most likely, I would say, because your problems are going to be narrowed and, I don't want to say eliminated, but mitigated by having legal guidance. Yeah, it goes anywhere from, from the beginning to it's, foreclosures coming down, lenders coming down, tenants problem, like it's anywhere in that spectrum.
Now, when folks are looking at commercial deals and they're underwriting properties, one of the things that I've often wondered about, I haven't asked anybody yet, is how do you underwrite, tenants? When people are buying a pre-existing commercial property, are they typically going in and are they looking at, hey, what's the profile, the avatar of these tenants, or are they just looking at rent rolls? Hey, are people paying on time? Because my thinking is, if you're just looking at rent rolls, then you might not be looking at, hey, who are our tenants? Are these people that are, transitory? Are these people that are here, by, kind of a workforce housing element? Do you know how often, multifamily investors are doing that type of due diligence and really trying to identify who their tenant pool is before they go buy a property?
The answer is not enough. The average level of research that they do is they just look at the rent rolls and the payment history and full stop, end of story. They're not looking at underlying tenant financials or subtenant financials or anything like that. They just care about, was the rent paid? Yes. What's the rent? When's it due? When's the lease up? That's it. Full stop, end of due diligence. And some people actually do the due diligence and want to get tenant financials and stuff like that. But at the same time, too, they may be limited because depending on what the lease is with the original owner or whatever, it's, what's the tenant care? They know they're not going to show you the finance. They don't have to. It's not part of their lease or their obligation of them to the current owner. So what are they going to show you? Their bank accounts or show you their 1099, their W-2 or whatever, a bank statement or whatever. The average due diligence stops at just looking at the spreadsheet bottom line numbers. Some people try to get more due diligence, but like I said, unless it's required, the tenant doesn't care. They're not going to give you those financials because what are you going to do to them? You're not going to do anything to them. So yeah, you would think that there's a lot more due diligence and research than there is, but there isn't.
When we talk about that, I mean, the prime strategy for people that are acquiring, existing multifamily housing is to raise rents, right? And so, if part of that, and I think this was one of the issues too, part of that pro forma was we're going to raise rents by a certain percentage each year. And while that was happening, you also had rents in greater markets. Of course, this isn't going to be true in New York or Boston, but in the Sun Belt in general, if your strategy was to raise rents, 3 to 5 or 10% a year over a 5 year period, and that's not panning out, now you've got to see, well, what are we going to do? And so now you're looking at, appreciation, and these properties weren't appreciating as heavily as you thought they might, right? So now you're dealing with not a distressed asset because the asset itself could be practically new. Now you're dealing with a distressed operator.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
You are. And obviously, not only does the cost of money go up, but inflation and, variable rates or whatever go up. And, the money you're borrowing is costing more money for you to hold on to over time. And you've got no way to recoup that because you got no set off. Because if you raise your rent, you're going to have no tenants. So, you have to find, it's kind of a tacky term, but you have to find the sweet spot as to what in the market that you're in, the geographic market, the socioeconomic market, whatever as specific as you want to get, what the market will bear in order to figure out what you can get away with increasing your rent percentage wise. And a lot of people, just kind of throw a number out there and say, it's going to be 3%, it's going to be 5%, it's going to be whatever percent. Sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't. So there's a lot of actuarial kind of analysis that you need to put into that a lot of people don't do.
Pivot a bit here, and we are coming up on time, but I do want to ask you about folks who are getting into the legal profession or are in the legal profession and are also looking at investing in real estate. One of the things that I've noticed that seems to be maybe counterintuitive for me, but I guess from someone who is a legal professional, this may seem like, oh yeah, that does fit the avatar of a legal professional, is that most of the attorneys that I've spoken with on this show feel like they're the outlier in that they're interested in investing in real estate because it may be riskier or time consuming. But to me, as someone who's, an operator in the space, I'm thinking, who better to invest in real estate than the people that understand all of these, 12-page contracts and, even just buying a home these days in so many areas is going to be a lengthy, contractual process, right? And so our newer attorneys and our, folks in their first 5 or 10 years in the legal profession often looking at getting into real estate investing, or is that a less common, potential hustle or career path aside from their legal career?
No, as you can hear, my dog wants to answer this question. She's very excited. I apologize. No, it depends on the attorney. There's a lot of entrepreneurial attorneys who, you don't want to call it a side hustle. They just have money because they make a lot of money or they have a lot of discretionary income and they got to do something with it. And, getting 4% from a CD or getting 6% from the market isn't good enough. And they want to get into something where the potential is much higher. And so they get into real estate. And yeah, there's a lot of real estate investors who are attorneys, particularly here in South Florida where I am. I know a lot of them and they're very successful. They're not necessarily outliners. They're a pretty good percentage of, attorneys out there, like entrepreneurial attorneys or whatever. Say, yeah, they get into real estate investment, whether it's residential, commercial, whether they pair up with people and have like a fund that they go buy stuff with, or they buy stuff by themselves. But a lot of people start out owning like their own office building and going from there. And, they just get the real estate bug and they start going and they're real estate investors. And before you know it, a lot of people start making more money from the real estate thing than from being an attorney. So yeah, it's inherent in a lot of attorneys' DNA that they have, discretionary money to invest, or they have the money, not even discretionary money to invest, but money that they want to invest that they want to get a higher yield on. And obviously over time, nothing does better than, real estate other than maybe Bitcoin and gold, but real estate's always there. So yeah, a lot of attorneys get into that, particularly here in South Florida. There's tons of attorneys I know who are real estate speculators, investors, whatever you want to call them.
We are coming up on time here, Matthew. Any new projects that you're working on? And then as well, what's the best way for folks to get in contact with you?
Sure. I'm always dealing with, from the real estate perspective, I'm always dealing with a lot of real estate litigation. I just told you about a case I'm working on that I filed last week regarding the, Canadians trying to sue the dude who tried to subsidize out the stuff. So I always got real estate litigation going on. Glad to help any of the real estate people out there or whatever. And, that's it. Just feel free to reach me at finarolegal.com. Be glad to answer any of your questions. It's got all my contact information, my social media, but, I may not be around because I'll be punishing my dog. So I don't know if I'll be able to take your calls right now after the show, but later on I will. So
Matthew, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for coming on the show.
thank you, Dylan. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.